What's up, guys? Welcome to Archer Amplify. I'm Archer. I'll be here every Monday talking to you about my job as a full-time musician and all the hurdles that come along with that. You'll hear about shows, songwriting, and everything that goes on behind the curtain. If you're curious about when I'm playing my shows, make sure you go to archermusicxx.com to check out my show schedule. Also, give me a follow on Instagram and Facebook. Just search Archer Music XX. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about the first band I was ever in. It was called Huckleberry Blue, and I was 18. I had a lot to learn, but I was very excited. So let's recap. In the last episode, I talked about my time in the Batcave, how I spent a lot of my junior and senior years in high school in a storage closet, learning how to record and watch hands and remember songs, and it all came in handy. So after I graduated, I started at a community college because I did not want to go off to a 4-year school yet. So I went to CCCC, and which is Central Carolina Community College, and a friend of mine worked with a guy who was in a band, and they needed a rhythm guitarist. And I was like, hello, that's me. I can do that job. So I took what I had learned from the Batcave and recorded a little demo of me playing guitar and singing so that they could, see what I sounded like, because that was what was asked of me and, usually is what is asked. So they asked me to come sit in on a rehearsal, and they sent me a few songs, that they'd been playing, and I came in knowing literally 2 songs. Okay, let's pause for a second. If you go in, I didn't know this at the time, but if you go in and sit in at a rehearsal, please definitely learn more than 2 songs. I was only 18, and the 2 songs that I knew were songs that I was already playing, but please, I didn't know. So do not make this mistake. Please go in knowing more than 2 songs. I don't know why they kept me, but they did. I picked up learning another song during the rehearsal, so I guess I showed promise for fast learning. I don't know. But shout out to Keith and everybody in Huckleberry Blue for taking a chance on me, because, coming in knowing 2 songs is really not what you need to do. So they kept asking me to come back, and they were like, okay, yeah, we want you to play in this show. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm part of a band now. So I was very excited, and they were like, okay, the show's in 2 weeks. Here's a set list of all the songs that we know and that you need to learn. At this point, it was midterms, and it was my first midterms, and I'd never done midterms, and it was studying and scary, and I have anxiety, so it was a lot of stress and pressure and overwhelming things, and I almost quit. I had to learn 60 songs in 2 weeks while I was in my first midterm. Like, I literally almost did not go back to rehearsal. I almost told them, like, hey guys, this is really a lot right now. I need to not, but I knew that if I did that, then, well, there goes that opportunity. So I just cried a lot and tried to remember a lot. That was pretty much how that happened. Well, the first show was in Augusta, Georgia, and I'd never played out of the state before. I'd never done that. It was at this big club on this big stage, and it was called the Augusta Country Club. And I had no experience, absolutely no experience with stage monitors or mic checks or anything. I knew nothing at all. And nobody warned me that everyone ends up playing louder during the show than in sound checks. And so my monitor was not set correctly. I was already nervous to begin with. I already didn't know what to do. And I strummed my guitar so hard that, well, I had a feedback protector in my guitar. So like in the hole, I had a piece of silicone that would help from feedback. But I got blood. My finger started bleeding, like my cuticle, my right hand pointer finger cuticle started bleeding, and there was just like little spatters of blood all over my strings and my guitar, and honestly didn't realize it until the end of the first set. But I knew that it hurt, but I didn't know why. And honestly, ever since then, my fingernail has not grown back normally. It is completely damaged, and like part of the nail itself won't grow straight, and I basically don't. Yeah, it's never been the same. But then again, I guess neither have I. So yeah, I strummed so hard that my finger bled. Anyway, I was a super tomboy in the years before. Like I would skateboard, play softball, like go start fires. I don't not like random, not like a pyromaniac, but I would go like build fires in like a fire pit or whatever. And that was like what I did for fun. That's what I did. And I would take a knife and like whittle sticks and stuff. So obviously I'm not gonna go around wearing tight clothes and dresses. Well, within the past year, I became more comfortable with my body because I was like a self-conscious child. And I became more comfortable and realized that clothes that weren't t-shirt and jeans looked decent on me. And I became more comfortable being a little more girly and whatever. So I really didn't wear dresses much before this, but I went and we found a good amount of dresses because I wasn't really sure what to wear. So the first show, I wore this very bright, very bright pink dress. And I definitely stood out. You couldn't miss me. The black lights only made it worse. And I was just this neon figure with a guitar on the stage. So, like I said, I was only 18 at the time, and they had to draw X's on my hands because you had to be 21 to get into the Augusta Country Club. And so I had, I've mentioned before that I have a very supportive family, and my parents came, and they're not partiers. They don't drink. I'd never really seen them drink ever. It was just not something that they did or I ever saw them do. So it was, they came, and I wanted them to come, and they came, and uh, it was just really funny because there was this huge bar slash club because it turned into a club after we stopped. And then there were my parents with their water bottles and my dad's camera ready to take pictures, and they were just like all excited. And then you have all these, you know, 21 to 30-year-olds that are just like, yeah, let's get drunk. It's dope. So it was really funny, but it really helped to calm me down to see a familiar face in the crowd. And yeah, I was very thankful that they were there that night. I was really scared. I was so nervous. I think I actually got sick before the show and I was shaking. I was very, very nervous. And I remember being on stage and standing in one spot, like not moving at all. My stage presence was not existent. I was just there strumming guitar very hard. So I probably looked a little out of place with my bright pink dress and my lack of movement, but everybody in the band made sure to say like, you're doing really good, or smile at me during a set to show me that you're doing fine, you're doing great, like it's okay. I was the youngest one in the band, so everyone treated me like a little sister, and that was really cool. But my set list, I had to use a music stand, and I never really used music stands before because I'd always have my songs memorized. And even now, still, I don't use a music stand. I don't know. I don't like using them. I just don't like using them. So, but the first couple of shows with Huckleberry Blue, I did use them because I had 60 songs to learn plus midterms, and that just was difficult to say the least. And I had chords written all over it, front and back. It was just a mess of a piece of paper. I think I still have it somewhere, and I look at it every time and I'm like, wow, I really did that. But so I had a music stand because I couldn't remember anything. So a lot of the show I was kind of looking at that unless I could, pick up the general idea of it and be able to remember it. It was also there for a cushion because I was a very scared person. So, yeah, but I only used the music stand for the first couple of shows, and after that I had a good portion of it down and I was able to memorize things a little easier. I got more of a gist about how things went, and the time in the marching band kind of helped teach me when when to react based off of the other sounds. And it was a country band, so I had grown up listening to country music, and it was pretty. It wasn't easy, but it was easier than some other songs or some other genres because I think country music can sometimes be pretty predictable. So that really helped me out. We played about 4 or 5 shows a month. Everybody had a full-time job, and I was a student. So when they were working, I was doing school stuff. And obviously I was the baby of the group. And they would always not make fun of me, but like pick on me for being the youngest or whatever. Not in a bad way. It was just really funny. Just because they were, 40-ish, 30s, upper 30s and 40s, and I was like 18. But it helped, though, because I was playing with musicians that were much more seasoned than I was. They knew so much more than I did, and I learned so much from being in that band. I cannot express to you how much I learned from being in that band. And honestly, something that Mr. Dillon had told me in high school was, your college won't start until you're doing music things. And I remember he said that. And I didn't quite understand at that point. He's like, your college for music will start when you start playing shows with a band. And it was kind of, looking back now, I kind of see what he meant, because I learned more about what I needed to do as a musician from experience than you could really ever read in a book. So that was a pretty big eye opener, kind of seeing all the things that I needed to pick up pretty quickly if I wanted to continue doing this. And thankfully, I was able to, because from all that I had learned from the Batcave and remembering songs and all those things. I was in Huckleberry Blue from the time I was 18 to 20, so 2 years. Over that time, there were changes to the lineup, a name change, a lot of fun stories to tell. I got to meet a lot of really cool musicians, and we, went through a few lead guitarists, a few bass players, stuff like that. So it was really cool to be able to meet all these really good musicians, and it was even cooler that all of them wanted to help me in some way. Like, they would all teach me something. I learned something from every single person that I came into contact with in Huckleberry Blue, and it's really cool. And some of them I still talk to pretty frequently. And if I have a question, I'll call them up and be like, hey, like, if I want to do this with my guitar, what kind of pedal do I need? Or, something about a business question or a venue question, or like, how do you approach something like this when something happens at a venue or stuff like that. And they've always been very responsive, and it's awesome. So thank you to all the people that's ever been in Huckleberry Blue for still helping me out and still answering my questions. Y'all are dope. And if I also need some song feedback, I'll send it to them as well. So they really still help me out. Once the band broke up, some of the people in the band had started new bands, and I had graduated from my community college and started going to UNC Greensboro, was majoring in communications and minoring in entrepreneurship. And on occasion, I was still playing solo shows, more than I was in high school, but less than what I really wanted to do because of school. But on occasion, I would get called up by one of the guys that was in the band and be like, hey, can you come fill in and play rhythm guitar for us this weekend? And I'm like, sure, just send me a set list. Like, I got you. And At that point, I was able to read hands pretty well, and I could pick up on almost really any song after the first verse and chorus. Because, like I said, it was country, and you know, sometimes it tends to be pretty predictable, and it, kind of made things a little easier. They would send the set list, and I would, kind of refresh my memory if it was songs that I played before, and then start paying attention to, chord structures on the new songs I'd never heard or whatever. I know I played this one show with Jake. His name was Jake. He was one of the lead guitarists in the band. And he asked me to come fill in Jacksonville, North Carolina at the Tar Heel Opry. And all of a sudden, he comes up with this song. And I had never heard it before in my life, ever. And thankfully, since we'd already worked together, he knew how I worked. And so I was like, what the heck? And he's like, just watch. I'm like, okay. So then I'll watch the chords. They were all bar chords, and I knew bar chords at that point. So I was able to play the guitar. I was on electric for that song, and I was able to pick up pretty quickly. So that was really cool. Shout out to Jake. Thank you. Yeah, so it was really cool. It's always really cool to go to see the people that I used to play with, and they still ask me how I'm doing and what I'm up to, and they're all super supportive. So thank you to everybody that was in the band that still supports me. I really appreciate you, even if we don't talk anymore. Thank you for all the time and all the things that you taught me. Up next on Archer Amplified, I'm going to tell you what my time at UNCG helped me with. I only really wanted to play music, but my parents' deal was that I get a degree first, just in case I ever needed it. It makes sense. Make sure to check out my website, archermusicxx.com, and follow me online. Just search Archer Music XX. Thanks for listening.